Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here. Welcome to another plugin knowledge session. In this session, we're going to have a look at a new plugin from Waves called the Abbey Chambers. So this is a reverb plugin, and it is meant to emulate the chamber rooms, or whatever you want to call them, the chambers within the Abbey studio complex. So there's a few features in this, and to be honest, it's pretty new, so I haven't had a great deal to look at it yet, so I'll be learning it as I do this tutorial. But just a quick pull-up of the plugin. It shows that there is a lot of detail in it and a lot of settings and various things we can do with it, so I'm interested to see the sound we get. Now, how do we know how authentic it is compared to the real chambers within Abbey Road? Well, unless you've been there and recorded with those chambers, we will never know. So we'll just have to trust Waves that they have represented this correctly and that they've had sign off from Abbey Road and all sounds good. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how much or how closely it emulates the chambers. Really, to us normal folk, it's all about, does it sound good? Do we like it? Do we want it on our mix? That's really what it is at the end of the day. It doesn't matter whether it truly sounds like Abbey Road chambers or not. If it sounds good, use it. If it doesn't, don't. Simple as that. So let's get into it, check it out, and see if it's worth purchasing. All right, so here we go. This is the interface. As you can see, looks very nice, great graphics, if that's what you're going for. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It's what it sounds like that counts. But looks obviously do play a part because we do like to do things visually with our eyes. So it's always nice to have a nice interface. Now, I've got a guitar track here, and I've just put it's a mono guitar, but I've put it on a stereo track just for the sake of getting the stereo effect of this plugin. You can load mono versions of this plugin, etc., but we're going to get the most out of this if we do it in stereo, because that's going to give us the most effect. Now, obviously, we can apply this reverb in multiple ways. We could put it on an effects channel and run it 100% wet and then blend it in with sends. Okay, hopefully you know how to do that. If you don't, check out some of my basic reverb techniques and parallel processing videos that I have around. For this one here, we're just going to assume that we're placing this directly onto the guitar track, and we will be using this wet dry control to adjust how much reverb we place. We will not be putting it 100%. Well, we will, but we will try various things here. So we could obviously try it on various instruments here, but I just thought this was a nice one here because it has short, stabby, chord-based guitar. So we should get a good impact of hearing the reverb between the stabs of guitar there. So at the moment it's bypassed, and this is the sound of the guitar. So you can see what I mean by stabby guitar there. It's fairly dry. There is a touch of reverb on it, but not enough to really impact us in this. Now this is in its default state right now. So if I was to just unbypass it, this is what we'll get straight away. Instantly to me sounds like a bit like you've recorded in a bathroom. That's the sort of vibe I'm getting. Now that's obviously at 100% wet there. But let's sort of run through things a bit at a time. So one thing I did forget to mention in the intro there is that this is not only just the chamber reverb, but it also includes a delay section. You've got some filters here as well, and various other things that we'll go through. We've got mic choices, speaker choices, and little things like that. So that's what I'm saying. It's a very detailed plugin, this one. We can change lots and lots of stuff. And this delay here is, as it's named, Steed. It's a tape delay that, reading the manual, it stands for Send Tape Echo Echo Delay, and it was developed at Abbey Road Studios. So the manual of the plugin has a full explanation of the Steed and everything else. So just quickly reading through it, it's a concept that they came up with which involves the whole plugin, and that's why it's included in this chamber plugin, because it involves the chamber. So it's a process where they pass the signal into the chamber, they then pass that reverb coming from the chamber into this tape delay loop here that then creates a longer tail of the chamber sound. So it takes it beyond the possibilities of the natural effect of the chamber and creates some noticeable delay effects using the chamber passing through the tape delay. All right, so for use of this plugin, we've got, you'll see this picture here. Okay, this is obviously a representation of the chamber. Here is our speaker. And here we have 3 microphones. If we use the plugin in mono and keep it at mono, so mono to mono, we just use this center microphone. If we use the plugin in a mono to stereo, so we're taking mono input, converting it to stereo, we take all 3 mics and blend them together. And then if we run the plugin in true stereo, which I'm doing here, it's split into 2 channels. Each side is processed as a separate mono to stereo signal, and then there's some to stereo at the output. So again, it's taking it all together and blending it together to create a stereo effect. Okay, up here, we've got some simple things. We've got some input gain and some output gain. So obviously, we could drive it harder. If we lower that down, if we wanted to drive it hard, we could clip it or bring it down if our signal's a bit too hot, or put it back to 0. And obviously our output gain here, we can get unity so that when we're bypassing and bring it in, we can get our signal to the right level. Okay, so in the default setting, it already had the Steed on, so I'm going to turn the Steed off at the moment. Okay, so this is the sound, 100% wet. So that's dry. So here's our dry signals now. So now we're blending a little bit in just to add a little bit of life to the guitar. So the reverb control here is supposed to adjust the balance of the signal from the tape machine processor before the echo chamber. So I'm not sure with the Steed, let's just put it to 100%. So it's not supposed to be the same as the dry wet, but let's see if it has any impact with the Steed off. So at the moment it sounds the same as the dry wet, but when we get into the tape delay here, I'm sure we're going to get a different setting from that altogether. Right, so we've got a filter section here as well, and a little bit of an EQ there. So if we just turn the filter section on at the moment, just to have a play with that, But it's pretty simple here. We've got obviously a top cut, so that's flat doing nothing, and then we're going to roll the top end off, so make it duller, or we can do the bass and take some of the bass out. Just leaving it fully wet, just so you can hear the exaggerated reverb there. And then we've got this little EQ setting here. So we've got the options of 2.7, 3.5, or 10 kilohertz. Handy if you just want to adjust the sound of that reverb a little bit there. Okay, so in this section here, we've got lots of settings, obviously. We've got 3 types of chambers. So this is chamber 2, which is a tile-based chamber. We then have a mirror, which has mirrors in it, very bright, and then we have a stone one. So I'll just flick through the 3 types without changing any other settings, and you can hear the difference. So I'll just flick through backwards, but you can hear here the stone is very dark and very tight. It's not a big reverb. Mirror is very bright, and then the chamber is sort of in between. It's a fairly big reverb, but not overly bright. So then on top of that, we also have this time value here, which is supposed to be the tail of the reverb, so the decay time of the chamber reverb. And sitting at 1, that is its natural state of each of these rooms. So that is just standard 100% normal original size of these chambers. If we go to 0.5, and we can go anywhere in between, but if we go to 0.5, we're now at 50% of the original size of the original. And 1.5, we're at 150% of the size of the original. So let's put it back to 1 and we'll adjust it. So you can hear it got tighter and smaller. To very big. Back to normal. And you can use those settings on each of them here. Okay, then over here we've got our mic type and our mic position. So we get a choice of 2 different types of mics here. We've got the Neumann KM53S, and we've got the Schoeps, I don't know how to say it, Schoeps MKH2S. So I'll flick between those 2. So the KM53s to me are a bit brighter, and the MK2Hs, yeah, a bit darker, a bit more flatter, not quite pronounced in the top end. Then we've got our position here. We've got our classic, which is obviously what they've got in the picture there. We can go to wall. So you'll see here all the mics have now been pointed towards the wall. And then we've got room, where we have put them before these pillars to capture more of the room. So let's go back to classic, and then we'll switch between them. So subtle differences there. It sounds a bit darker when you get to the back end wall there. It all depends on the style you're going for, and I'd imagine that if we switch mics, we can do the same thing with the other mic type. So lots of possibilities here. Now, you will notice with the mic and speakers, we'll come to speakers in a minute, but just looking at the mics, when we switch to the other two rooms, we lose our mic choice, but we still do have a position. So let's just switch between it. So on the mirror, but near. We've got a stone. Again, a different feel, different vibe. Obviously, you've got different placements here because these two rooms do not have the pillars in them as these ones do, as the Chamber 2 does. All right, then we've got speakers, but you'll also notice here they've taken away the speaker option in these two here, and looking at the picture here, it looks like it's a B&W. So we don't need to try those two, but when we look here, we have different speakers. We have a B&W, it's a 800D, which is supposed to be a modern flat sound with a very wide range, so a more modern speaker. Or we've got the old tech, which 605, which is the standard monitor loudspeaker used in the 1950s and 60s. So very little low end, mid-range frequencies. So obviously a different vibe with that. So let's play those two. Big difference between those two speakers. And then we've got placement. So we've got wall or we've got room. So going by this picture here, I'd say what we're doing is that is the front of the speaker there. So in the wall state, we are pointing the speaker that we're playing our audio guitar signal through at the wall. And we switch the other way, we're pointing it to the room. And with the combination of all of them together, you can imagine how many options we've got. We can be switching those, switching mics, switching placements, and we can get all different types of sounds because we've got lots of options. You can see how much it changes just by playing with these 4 different settings here. Massive amount of difference to how this room reacts. All right, let's now add in our tape delay because we've gone through all the other options. You know, obviously we've got our normal settings here. We can undo, redo. We've got set up A and B that we can flick between, and we've got lots of presets here to do different things from lots of different setup options here, so you can try them all out. But let's just quickly go through the Steed, then maybe we'll flick through some of the presets just to give some examples. So I'll just turn this filter section off because we're not using it at the moment. We've got it in our default settings here, and what I'll do is I will turn on the tape delay. Okay, small change, but pretty subtle, because we haven't done any settings with this yet. So this is just its default setting. So we've got a big feedback knob here, which controls the amount of signal that gets fed back into the tape. So obviously that's highlighted red for a reason. Okay, so we've got 3 filters for our feedback here. So this helps us sculpt the sound that the delay's impacting, and can prevent some buildup of unwanted frequencies that continuously go through the feedback here. So I'll turn the feedback up a bit higher, and then I'll just play with these. So I just put it on a higher setting there, just so I can exaggerate these filters there, just so you can get an idea of what it does. But yeah, if you've got some frequencies there that you're not real happy with, that are building up too much as it's feeding back through the tape, you can control that with these settings here, which is handy. So then we've got 2 other settings here. We've got some modulation here, which adds some AM and FM modulation to the feedback signal. And we've got some drive, which applies drive to the input level, so the signal coming in to the tape. And every time the signal is fed back in, the drive is applied. So the theory is that it's going to get more and more sort of distorted or driven and crunched each time it goes through. So let's just exaggerate a bit again. So you can hear the warble going on there with the modulation. And then if we turn the drive on, so you can hear that drive having an impact on there. Okay, and this delay section here is supposed to be the delay time of the record and repro heads and that sort of thing. So we can actually adjust this to whatever we like. And we've got a link button here. So we've got left and right channels here, so we can link them so they're the same, or we can unlink it and adjust each independently. We can also click on sync, which will sync it to the tempo of our DAW here. And in that case there, what we get is a time division, so we can change what time value we want based on the tempo of our song. But if we turn the sync off, then we got adjustability individually. So now we've got an obvious delay effect. If I was to sync it, then we can do different settings here. So we can change the sound of our delay there. So that is the delay, that is the chamber. As I said, it sounds pretty good to me and gives you a nice lot of settings that you can play with, very authentic. If you want that chamber sound, let's just flick through a couple of presets here just to see what they sound like. So obviously some of these presets have got it to 100% wet because they're probably designed to be applied on an effects channel. But if you just tweak the setting here, you can obviously get what you want out of it. So you can see there's lots of presets, lots of nice effects to give you an idea of what settings work, what don't. You can flick through, find something you think sounds pretty good, and then adjust it to suit exactly what space you're going for. So you could keep playing with this all day, but I guess I better stop or this video will never end. So there you go. That is the Waves Abbey Road Chambers plugin. Check it out. See what you think of it on your mixes. See if you think it's worth the price. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. And yeah, just see if it's does it live up to the hype? Do you think that it's worth investing money in these emulations of real places and things like that? Are you obsessed about studios like Abbey Road and you want to create that sound that was on vintage records and current records that are still recorded there and things like that? So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Hopefully this has been helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.